Din Tai Fung charges $9 for a plate of cucumbers, and people line up to pay it. So naturally, the internet is chock full of recipes claiming you can make it at home. But almost every one of them adds 2 ingredients, the same 2 ingredients that the restaurant has never put in this dish. And I'm not guessing here. Din Tai Fung has a document on their own website that proves it. Now let me show you what's actually in this thing and what isn't. Every recipe online dresses these cucumbers the same way: soy sauce and vinegar. That's the classic dressing for this style of dish, so you can see why everyone assumed it. The problem is Din Tai Fung doesn't use either of these, and the soy sauce is the easiest one to prove. This is Din Tai Fung's menu allergen guide, straight from their website. Look at the 2 allergens flagged for the cucumber salad: soy and sesame. Anyone looking at this could reasonably infer that they're using soy sauce. But I want you to notice what isn't flagged: gluten. Almost all soy sauce is brewed with wheat, so if there was soy sauce in this dish, they would have to mark off gluten. And these other 4 dishes, all of which traditionally use soy sauce, are flagged for it. So why is there a soy allergy warning on the cucumber salad at all? To answer that, I had to go one level deeper. These are ingredient lists from Din Tai Fung's employee training materials that I found online. The soy in this dish is soybean oil, the base of the chili oil they make in-house. And I'll show you exactly how to make that later in this video. There's also a little soy protein in the mushroom bouillon they use to cure the cucumbers. But look at what's not on here: no soy sauce, and there's no vinegar. Which means the traditional dressing the internet has been putting on these cucumbers is totally wrong. It's basically a vegetable, 4 oils, salt, sugar, and a little bouillon. If you've seen my other Din Tai Fung videos, you know their whole approach is about maximizing the natural flavor of what's already there, while using as few ingredients as possible. So with an ingredient list this short, how are they making this so flavorful? To figure that out, we're going to go through the ingredient list 1 ingredient at a time. And the first thing you need to get right is the cucumber itself. Din Tai Fung uses Persian cucumbers, which are a lot smaller than the cucumbers you're probably used to. A regular cucumber has thick, bitter skin and a core full of seeds and water, and no amount of dressing fixes that. You can't dress your way out of a structural problem. Persians are the opposite. They have a thin skin you don't have to peel, hardly any seeds, and they stay dense and crunchy all the way through. You'll usually find them in shrink-wrapped containers like this or in a bag right next to the regular ones. And a pound, which is typically 5 or 6 cucumbers, will make about 3 to 4 servings of this recipe. Next up on the list is something strange. Din Tai Fung lists canola oil and olive oil as 2 separate ingredients, side by side. When you see that pattern on a commercial ingredient list, it almost always means one thing: a pre-mixed food service blend. Which tracks because Din Tai Fung opened in 1958 as a cooking oil shop. They were selling oil long before they ever made a dumpling. You can find blends like this at any grocery store, or I'll show you how to mix your own when we put everything together. That covers most of the ingredients already: Persian cucumbers, salt, the canola and olive oil blend, a bottle of toasted sesame oil. It's all stuff you can grab at a normal grocery store. The only thing you won't find at the store is their house-made chili oil. And I'll have an entire segment on how I reverse engineered it later, because there are a ton of people online saying they'd do anything to learn how Din Tai Fung makes it. Before we get to the chili oil, let's talk about grocery runs for a second, because groceries are expensive, gas is expensive, everything costs way more than it used to. And that's why I've been using today's sponsor, Upside. I generally don't mess with cashback apps because they usually mean scanning receipts for 11 cents. With Upside, the businesses fund the offers themselves to win your visit, so a participating gas station, restaurant, or grocery store is basically paying you to pick them. You just claim an offer in the app, and then you pay like you normally would. When I filled up before my last grocery run, my station was offering 50 cents a gallon in cash back, which came out to about $3.70. And the only thing I did differently was tap claim before I paid. And that adds up because people who use it regularly earn over $250 back a year on average. I use this, and you should too. And it stacks on top of whatever credit card or loyalty rewards you're already getting. Offers depend on what's near you, but with over 100,000 participating locations, odds are good you'll find some. Upside has given back over $1 billion to its users. To find out how much you could earn, download the free Upside app and use promo code FARMER10 to get a $10 bonus on your first purchase. That's an extra $10 on top of the cashback you're already receiving. Alright, I promised you an entire segment on Din Tai Fung's chili oil because people online are genuinely obsessed with this stuff. They describe it less as a condiment and more like a controlled substance, and their only plug is a dumpling restaurant. There's been endless speculation about how they make it, but every recipe I found online just uses a generic chili oil method. What none of them mention is that Tai Fung sells this stuff as a retail product, and that product has an ingredient label. Everything I'm about to show you was reverse engineered straight off that label. This is the ingredient list from the chili oil they sell in Taiwan, and there are only 8 things on it: soybean oil, 2 kinds of chili, and a handful of aromatics: scallion, garlic, ginger, green Sichuan peppercorn, and star anise. What matters just as much is what isn't on it. There's no salt, no sugar, no sesame, and no MSG. Every recipe online adds seasoning to their chili oil, and Tai Fung's own label shows that's wrong. The first chili on that list is where most people mess this up. The label says chili powder, and obviously we're not talking about the Western chili powder with cumin and oregano in it. The problem is at the Asian grocery store, where you'll see 2 totally different products both labeled chili powder. One is a fine ground dust, an actual powder, and the other is this coarse crushed chili. If you've ever had a chili crisp like Laogan Ma, this is the same kind of coarse chili that gives it that texture. What we're making is the clear style of chili oil, not a crisp. But you want that coarse grind, which is much closer to chili flakes because it releases its color cleanly and settles into a clear red oil, while the fine dust scorches faster and will cloud your oil. Between the label and several rounds of testing, the recipe I landed on is closer to Tai Fung's chili oil than any other recipe I tested. Now, fair warning, making chili oil means deep frying aromatics and pouring very hot oil. So if that's not something you want to deal with, stick around to the end because I'll show you a few store-bought options that work in this salad too. Alright, so let's make this thing. You'll start with 1 cup of a neutral oil in a small pot. And since their label lists soybean oil, I recommend vegetable oil, which is actually made from soybeans. Then add the aromatics, the white and light green parts of 2 scallions, 4 smashed garlic cloves, a 1-inch piece of ginger sliced into coins, and 1 or 2 star anise, stars, pods, whatever they're called. You'll bring this up to temp over low to medium-low heat, and you're looking for the aromatics to start lightly frying. Keep it at this temperature the entire time, and the whole process usually takes about 10 to 20 minutes. What you're doing is infusing all of the flavor from these aromatics into the oil before you ever pour it over the chili. You'll know it's done when the scallions and garlic are golden and look dried out, because at that point they've released all their flavor into the oil. While that's frying, let's get all the dry ingredients ready. For the whole dried chilies, you can use pretty much any dried red chili here, with one warning. Stay away from the really small ones like bird's eye chilies because those are extremely spicy. What you're looking for are the medium-sized dried chilies you've seen 100 times in dishes like General Tso's chicken, the standard ones at any Chinese takeout restaurant. That's because this chili oil is more savory than spicy. Grab 4 to 6 of them and toast them in a dry pan over medium-low heat until they're fragrant and a little darker. Then cut them up with scissors, seeds and all. These whole chilies are where most of the heat comes from, so if you want a spicier oil, this is the time to add more. Then they go into a heat-proof bowl along with half a cup of the coarse chili powder we talked about earlier. The last thing to prep is the green Sichuan peppercorn. If you've had Sichuanese food, you already know the red ones, the ones that make your mouth go numb and tingly. The green ones do the same thing, but they taste more citrusy, almost lemony, and green is what Tai Fung lists on their label. Now here's where most people mess this up. They just toss them in whole, seeds and all. What you actually want is only the outer layer, because despite the name, these are the dried husks of a shrub called the prickly ash. And the husk is where all that aroma and numbing sensation come from. The little black seeds inside are gritty like sand, so pick through them, throw out the seeds, and lightly crush the husks. You'll only need about a teaspoon of the crushed husks. These are the one thing that doesn't go in the bowl with the chilies. They go in at the very end, and I'll explain why when we get to that step. By now, the aromatics should be golden and dried out, which means it's time to scoop them all out and throw them away. At this point, they've lent all their flavors to the oil, so we have no use for them. Before anything gets poured, check the oil with a thermometer. You want it right around 300 degrees. Once it's there, you'll pour it over the chili in thirds. Pour in the first third and give it a stir, which tempers the chili so the hot oil doesn't scorch it. Then pour in the second third and stir it again. After the third and final pour, let the sizzling die down, then stir in the green Sichuan peppercorn husks. The reason they go in last is that their citrusy flavor comes from delicate essential oils that would cook off in the hot oil, while the numbing part isn't really affected by heat at all. From here, the oil needs to steep for about 12 to 24 hours. During that time, the chilies are still infusing the oil with their flavor and color, and all the solids are slowly settling at the bottom. What you're left with is a layer of clear red oil sitting on top, and that clear part is what Tai Fung uses on this salad. They don't use any of the chili crisp at the bottom because this is a very clean dish. You can absolutely use the stuff at the bottom for other things, but for this dish, you're only scooping from that clear layer. And since we made this with fresh garlic and ginger, you need to store it in the fridge and use it within about a month. While the oil is doing its thing, let's get back to the cucumbers. But before we do, I want you to notice something. You just watched me make this entire chili oil with zero seasoning going into it. And if you remember the ingredient list from the beginning, there's no soy sauce anywhere in this dish either, which raises an obvious question. How is this salad seasoned at all? The answer is they dry brine it. The only things that ever season these cucumbers are salt, sugar, and mushroom bouillon. And they go on at the very beginning, before they're dressed with any of the oils. You'll slice a pound of Persian cucumbers into half-inch coins, and to that you'll add 1.5 teaspoons of diamond crystal kosher salt, 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, and 1/2 teaspoon of totale granulated mushroom bouillon. Now, if you've seen my Din Tai Fung green beans video, you already know this stuff because I spent a whole section of that video tracking down the right bouillon to use. Din Tai Fung says in their own training materials that they don't add MSG to anything, but that it is in the mushroom bouillon they season with. Totale lists MSG right on the label, so it's still my pick. If you're looking for it at the grocery store, just look for the one with the rather suggestive looking mushroom on the package. The bouillon goes on as little dry granules, but when you're tossing the cucumbers with salt in the bouillon, the salt is pulling water out of the cucumbers while the granules dissolve into that liquid, and that brine is what seasons the cucumbers. Toss everything together until it's evenly coated, then cover it and put it in the fridge for about 1 to 2 hours. I found that 90 minutes is the sweet spot, but you can experiment within that window. The exact weights for everything, including the salt, are in the recipe link in the video description because salt weighs differently depending on the brand. When the time is up, drain off the liquid and pat the cucumbers completely dry, but do not rinse them. Just wipe them off with paper towels as well as you can. We don't want to reintroduce any water to the dish because oil will slide right off a wet cucumber. And that's the trick of this whole dish. The seasoning is already inside the cucumber before it's dressed, which is why this tastes so well seasoned while the plate looks relatively barren. Now we're finally ready to put this whole thing together. But first, remember that canola and olive oil blend from earlier? I told you I'd show you how to make your own, and it's very simple. For every tablespoon of the blend you need, you'll use 2.5 teaspoons of a neutral oil and 1/2 teaspoon of olive oil, which is the same 5-to-1 ratio most commercial blends use. And 1 tablespoon is exactly the amount this recipe uses. From here, we'll do everything in one bowl. Add 14 cucumber pieces along with 1 thin slice of fresh garlic. Then pour in that tablespoon of the house blend, 1/2 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil, and 1 tablespoon of the clear chili oil we made earlier. By the way, that sesame oil is the second allergen flagged on the allergen guide from the beginning of the video, so now you've seen where both of those come from. Toss everything together until every coin is evenly dressed with the oils. The sesame oil is the strongest flavor here, which is why we only used about 1/6 the amount of the other oils. And that raw garlic slice is in there to lightly perfume the salad while you toss it all together. Now for the presentation, because Din Tai Fung does not just pile these on a plate. You'll stack the coins into a pyramid, 9 on the bottom, 4 in the middle, and 1 on top, which as far as I know is exactly how the Egyptians did it. We're building a very small monument to a vegetable. Take the garlic slice and place it at the tip of the pyramid. Then pour over whatever oil is left at the bottom of the bowl over the whole stack, and it'll run down the sides and pull at the bottom of the plate. The last thing to go on is a single thin piece of sliced Fresno chili right on top. And very quickly, before the taste test. Earlier I promised you some store-bought options that work in this salad because I know not everyone wants to go through the rigmarole of making chili oil from scratch. You can find tons of different pre-made chili oils at any Asian grocery store. Lee Kum Kee makes a really solid one you'll see in a lot of Chinese restaurants, and S&B La Yu is probably the closest match to the style we just made. And with a store-bought chili oil, the whole dish comes together in about 5 to 10 minutes of actual work. You can even keep the dry-brined cucumbers in the fridge for 2 to 3 days, so this is an easy dish to keep on deck. Alright, back to the taste test. Is it better than the traditional soy and vinegar version that every recipe online uses? Honestly, it's just different, and it's very Din Tai Fung. Maximum flavor from the fewest possible ingredients. I hope you can see how they're completely justified in charging $9 for a simple plate of cucumbers. And if you want to see how Din Tai Fung squeezes even more flavor out of even fewer ingredients, check out my video on their green beans right here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.